guys.
Brief opening statement from Coach. We have microphones in the room.
Brief opening statement.
Sure. If you have a question after that, please raise your hand and we'll bring one to you.
I thought the officials did a fantastic job out there. The way they moved around in spring and not having, they've only had 2 scrimmages, and for them to go out and basically not really break a sweat and not pull a hamstring or a muscles, I think kudos to those officials, and we can't wait to have officials like that referee our contest in the fall. Questions? Sir. I can call you out. There you go. You got your mic and everything. Let's go.
I was curious what you've seen from Courtney Jackson thus far and kind of what has stuck out about him that you think that you guys will be able to use.
You know, he's learned the plays. He's doing a good job of catching the football, and that's always a big thing for a wide receiver. Now, obviously, he needs to go out and train this summer and see how he handles it. We've had other wide receivers who are still in the program. Their first 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks on the team, they've made big moves and said, hey, I'm going to be a standout guy. And then as the playbook gets bigger and bigger and bigger, mentally they slow down, and that slows them down physically on the football field, and they really haven't made the push and really haven't made the move. So it's interesting to see where he's at. I think he has done some really cool things. Now let's see what happens with the rest of his body during the summer, the rest of his learning during the summer, and then where he's at when he comes back in the fall.
It's pretty early in the spring. Someone asked you about Cisco and Schmidt, and you said, it's great that we have 2 All-Americans, but I want to make sure that they keep learning. Specifically with Cisco, what have you seen from him in that regard, and like where is the room for growth?
I think the biggest room for growth, he's already worked on it. If you look at his buys and tries, it looked like he went down to Walmart and bought himself some guns. You know, he looks differently up top. He looks more physical, and I think he's been striking people a lot better. If you're going to be a safety, there's going to be situations where you may not necessarily need to knock the guy out, but you have to be able to get him down, and we got some big, strong backs in the ACC Atlantic. So I think he's done a nice job of changing his upper body, and he needs to continue to do that.
From a mentality perspective, and maybe like for true freshmen to come in and tie for the National League interceptions and be an All-American, it wouldn't be surprising for someone to maybe get a little bit of big-headedness. It doesn't seem like he has that. How have you seen him handle that?
I think you're exactly right. I think he's a very mature young man. He doesn't get very high. He doesn't get very low. You just tell him what to work on, and then he goes and works on it. This big thing, when he first came in, I said, hey, you got to look right. Right now, you don't look like the first-team All-American safeties and first-team All-ACC safeties. You need to make sure that physically you look like him, look like them, and I think he's done a nice job of starting to change his body, and I know that he'll continue to work on that.
You know, Dino, seeing all the guys that are rotating through it, it seems like there's more talent and depth on this year's team, you know, than there has been in quite some time. Where do you stand with the depth on this team as far as where you would like it?
We're still not there. I know it sounds like I keep playing the same song. We're not there. We need to have the depth that the teams that we have to challenge for conference championships have, and we're not there. We can put out 21, 22, 24, 25 really good football players, but if we get hit in the wrong positions, we're no different than the 2016, 2017 teams. So we're always working for more depth. We do think we've got some young, talented guys, and now they need to get bigger and stronger.
Coach, you're replacing your starting linebacking core for the 3rd straight year. Over the last 2 years, they were both senior pairs, and Zaire Franklin, Paris Bennett, Ryan Guthrie last year as well. Is there a preference for standing as like an upperclassman that you're looking for from your starting linebackers, or perhaps is there a chance like Andre Cisco last year as a young guy coming in and earning a spot?
You know, I think there's a chance for a young guy to come in. They just have to, again, they need to come in and learn the mental part of the game. When you get to a linebacker or quarterbacking position, there's a lot of things that you need to know that maybe some of those other positions they don't need to know. They can just come in and listen to a call and do what they're supposed to say, do what they're supposed to do, instead of having to know what call to make so the other 10 guys know what to do along with yourself. So there's a learning curve. I don't think there's any difficulties to it, but I think when a freshman comes in here and they have the same attitude that a Cisco or Kendall Coleman has, I think they're going to have an opportunity to make that move.
Nick, you talked a little bit earlier in the spring about some of the younger linebackers, the 2s, kind of the 1.5s, kind of playing up through the spring. Did you kind of see that from the young linebackers throughout the weeks and especially today?
You know, again, I think those guys make mistakes. The younger linebackers, they make mistakes, but they do it the right way. You know, they get to the ball angry. They knock things around. And when you do that as a young linebacker, you're normally going to grow up to be something. So we're excited where those guys are. They just need to continue to develop and continue to get better.
Coach, last year you made the prophecy when you brought up Zaire Franklin saying he was uncuttable, and then it ended up going through true. He ended up starting a playoff game for the Indianapolis Colts. You got a whole new batch of guys coming in the 2019 NFL Draft with Dungy, Slayton, Custis, and others. Do you have any prophecies for any of these guys?
Oh, I don't know. I might have got lucky with Zaire, huh? All that knowledge, all that experience. You know, I think that our guys have a chance. I really do. I think Dungy is such a tremendous competitor. It's hard for me to believe that there's 2 or 3 guys that can outcompete him for anything. And I think the world of 3 technique. You know, I think Chris Slayton is going to be an NFL player. I really do. He may not get drafted as high as everybody thinks he is, but I think he's one of those guys, once you see him work, that he's going to be on the team. And I think Jamal Custis, for someone that's been here for so long and really didn't do a lot of stuff until his senior year, I really believe he's going to have an opportunity to make it, mainly because of his special teams play. But once you make the team as a special teamer and you're up there and you learn the professional life and you're around and you start getting some of those checks, I think that he'll be a guy that will develop into an every down player based off his size and speed as he matures. So I think all 3 of those guys have a good chance, along with the other guys that I haven't mentioned, Cody Conway, Coda Martin. I think there's a lot of guys that have a chance.
Dino, just tell me the type of progression you've seen out of Tommy DeVito this spring, and I mean, how much has he grown just from, you know, the end of the last season up until right now? What do you hope to see out of him this year?
Well, I think he's grown a lot. I mean, obviously he threw the interception in the spring game. That might have been a touchdown, might not have been a touchdown. But I think the thing that T's done a nice job of, we've been challenging him to see if you can throw that in there. He's so talented that, you know, and he does a nice job of protecting the football. He really doesn't want to turn the ball over, which is great, which is fantastic. But, you know, you're not driving Miss Daisy. You know, we're not driving the speed limit and stopping at every stop sign. And when it's yellow, we stop and let everybody else go. You got a racing car. You know, you got to make the tires sing. So we're really on him, pushing him to see if you can throw it in that hole. See if you can put it in that crack and find out what your limitations are. So if we need that throw somewhere in the future, you'll know whether you can make it or not. And I think he's been doing a good job giving us that.
John in the back, and Steven.
Coach, back here. You said going into the bowl game that the biggest thing for that was the extra practices you could use as a springboard going into the spring. Now that spring is concluded, do you feel like you guys took advantage of those practices to set you guys up for success here in the spring that may have made you guys a little more advanced than you might have been in years past?
I think so. I mean, the thing you got to remember about the spring game that you guys saw is that there's a lot of things on defense that we didn't show because we don't want everybody to see it. There was a lot of things on offense we didn't do. Okay, because we don't want everyone to see it. And every college football team does that. And then we had a lot of guys out. I mean, there was a lot of players, excuse me for popping that P, there was a lot of players with a lot of experience that wasn't on the field today. And all those guys will be back in the fall, as far as I know. So I think we are ahead. And I think even more so with some of the injuries that we got in the spring, that we got even younger guys more experience. And this was a very physical spring, and it's going to be that way. So hopefully, because it went back to the getting more depth and getting the depth the way we wanted, the earlier question, the more opportunities, even though it looks bad right now that those guys got hurt, it gives the underbelly more opportunities to be a 1, the 3s more opportunities to be a 2, which means they're getting more reps, and it's going to build more depth on our football team when we get to the fall. So it's a fantastic question.
A couple quick ones. You kind of touched on it, but it sounds like Dakota Davis
He said
is.
last 2. He said a couple quick
Well, just a
ones.
couple quick ones. It's a long summer. Dakota, any long-term concern there, Dakota Davis?
No.
Okay. And then Tristan, I think today was, aside from the Camping World Bowl, the first time people got to see him. He made that great catch. What have you learned about him this spring and what he can do?
He needs to be challenged, and I think he really wants to be good, and you need to challenge him so that he can be the best that he can be. The 2 line.
The backups and the depth chart coming in the spring?
I didn't even know they put him as a 2. They put him as a 2? See, these things go on in this program that I don't even know about. That's okay. Those guys are compete, and they're going to battle, and the best guys will always rise to the top, and whoever's the best will play, and the other ones will wait until they get better.
Last question, Josh.
Dino, I was just curious what you kind of took out of the offensive line this spring, because I know a decent amount of guys got hurt, and you got transfers coming in, so it might not be the group that you see come fall camp. So I was curious if you still felt like you were able to learn about some of those guys and what you learned about the younger guys.
You know,
maybe.
that stuff was good. I mean, we had the 2 young tackles going against Kendall Coleman and Alton, and I mean, there's no contest. And you have to look. You got to train your mind what you're really looking at. So you have Kendall Coleman, who came in as a freshman and just beat out every older guy on the team and started as a defensive end. You got Alton Robinson that came in as a sophomore and has been destroying people. And now you got both of those guys as seniors going against 2 kids that have never played. It looked like the way it was supposed to look like, okay? It looked bad, okay, for them. But the good thing is that they're only going to get better. I mean, if you're covering Michael Jordan and you're not stopping him at all, you are getting better, even though he's scoring all those points. You go cover something, you go cover me, you can shut me down, I promise you. So they're getting better, but the other 2 guys are so good you can't tell. Okay? And then when you get those guys out of there and you get them against somebody else, you're going to be able to tell. So we'll get, we got some more guys coming in, and we'll see whoever the best guys are. But I would like to think that those 2 defensive ends together is a decent package. There may be some duo that's better, but it ain't a whole bunch of them.
Bonus question, last one.
Coach Babers back here. I just wanted to make sure to ask before you go about what the benefit was to have some of these legends back here talking to the team, and you got to hang out with them and kind of.
How cool was that? Thanks for the question. I mean, I got a chance to talk to number 39, Larry Zonka. Are you guys kidding me? I tell you, when I was a kid, I almost got beat up because when we were young, this is in the 70s before you had phones that you could watch movies on and stuff. We were outside playing, and when we played street football, we had to declare who we were going to be. Like, I'm going to be Isaac Curtis, and I'm going to be Paul Warfield. And then one time I claimed I was going to be Larry Zonka, and everybody said I couldn't be Larry Zonka. And I'm not going to say the reason why they said I couldn't be Larry Zonka, but I wanted to be Larry Zonka. And it almost got to a point where I almost had to fight the guy that I was going to be Larry Zonka. So I got an opportunity to be Larry Zonka like in the early 70s, out in the street, and I'm acting like I'm Larry Zonka. And after that, all the other kids wanted to know who Larry Zonka was because they didn't know who Larry Zonka was. And we started watching TV, and they started realizing why I wanted to emulate him. And he's big. I wasn't as big as he was. He's big. He was physical. And he was just kind of like a no-nonsense type of guy. I know you guys, as a kid, you probably don't think that I was like that. But he was just kind of like a no-nonsense, physical alpha with all capital letters, no small. Kind of gets your eyes going a little bit. So I told him when I had my first opportunity to meet him, I said, do you know the first time I ever spoke at my press conference, I mentioned you? I said, 44s, what about 39? And don't get me wrong, Jim Brown, he's the GOAT. I mean, Floyd Little, all the 44s, I get it. But I'm just telling you now, for a 10-year-old, 11-year-old kid, to me, Larry Zonka was the bomb. And then Coach Kaufman, I mean, Super Bowl rings, the whole 9 yards, running an NFL organization. It doesn't get any better than that. And Floyd, he just represents Syracuse. I call him Uncle Floyd. It's like he's been around forever, and everybody, tell me somebody that says something bad about Floyd. Yeah, how many guys are walking the planet are like that? Just awesome, awesome people, and I love them to death. And as long as we can keep that bridge from the past, okay, connected all the way to the present, wow, we may have a hell of a future. You guys, thank you so much. I think I get to rest now and get some relaxation, maybe at least 1 or 2 days. But tonight is Game of Thrones, okay, 9 o'clock. Is this Saturday? Sunday, yeah. What day is this? It's Saturday. Oh, see, I'm already on vacation. Tomorrow night, 9 o'clock Eastern, Sunday, Game of Thrones. Okay, and then the Star Wars thing is, what is that, 2 weeks? When is that? 2 weeks from now? When is this? The Star Wars? God dang it. Okay, I'm all fired up. Game of Thrones and Star Wars, it doesn't get any better than that. You guys have a great one. Let's go.